As many of you know, Bernie Cahill is the founding partner and the head of music division at Roar. He's going to be up here conducting the interview for our first segment for a very, very special guest indeed. You do not want to miss this one, ladies and gentlemen. But first, here's a little teaser. We're going to start off with a video right now. Rock and roll.
It's critical to blur the line between real and fantasy. Fear is America's favorite drug. My name's Melissa Carbone, and I'm in the business of fear.
For I am the star that fell from the sky. I am the light that blinded the world. I am the light. Tonight, your body will be food for flies. But your soul will be mine.
If a camper cannot take it anymore and you need to back off, you will hear them say, I want my money! Rise, Osiris. Rise, Leviathan, Beelzebub. Rise, meet me. Time for the sheep to go to slaughter. I can taste your sins all over me. You will break, do the wake, you betrayed. The face I gave you, you will break. It's your blood, now sunshine, tears of blood.
Melissa Carbone with 1031 Productions. They also produce the Haunted Hayrides.
It's hugely popular.
The ultimate event for movie fans.
We submerge you into the experience of horror. The $7.4 billion industry. The campers don't leave bloody, muddy, sweaty, and wet. We didn't do our job.
Look under your seat. Put on the mask. Ladies and gentlemen, 1031 Productions founder and CEO, Melissa Carbone. And Roar Entertainment, founder and president, Bernie Cahill.
Hey! All right.
Right or left?
I'm over here. Hello! So before we get started, not many people put on their masks. Look under your seats. Really, look under your seats. I need you to play with me. If I'm going to talk about immersive experiences, I need to immerse you guys for a second. And put on your masks. All right, we're getting there. Just indulge me for a second. All right, that looks a little better. That's what was supposed to happen. Thanks, everyone. All right.
So welcome all that matters. Today we're going to be having a chat with Melissa Carbone,
In my mask.
who is the thought leader in immersive entertainment. And I think today probably the best place to start would be, can you tell us first of all it's the buzzword of live entertainment right now. Tell us what it means to you.
Yeah, so immersive entertainment is almost spoken of so frequently it's become jargony. Interchangeably, it's used often with interactive, engagement, and immersive. Now, those three words are really different to me. They aren't mutually exclusive, and they definitely can work together. But to me, in the live attraction space, immersive means to bodily submerge your audience into your world. And that's what, when we just did the mask exercise, that's what that was for. I don't want to get up and talk to you guys about immersive entertainment without have immersed you for a second or two. So, when people put on a mask, the alter ego comes out, and that's, turning the audience into part of our show is always what we want to do, and that's what we wanted to do today, immerse.
Well, clearly the Haunted Hayride and the other properties that you're developing, it's working well for you. They're spreading across the U.S. She's looking, in fact, to expand here in Asia next. So, FYI. What's working about what you're doing, and what's unique about your offering?
So 1031 Productions, we're a live event company that creates, produces, and owns attractions in the horror space predominantly. We're unique in that our philosophy takes environments that are already creepy, haunting, dark in their demeanor, and we put a model in that environment that has never been put in that environment before. For example, our Haunted Hayride, we took people that live in a city and we put them in the woods at night. That had never been done. The Great Horror Campout is a 12-hour overnight camping experience. Again, that had never been done in this space. We had the very first haunted attraction that ever took place on a ship that actually set sail. So we use environments in a way where they haven't been used before in the horror space.
But tell us about, so you said 12-hour overnight. What does that,
Yeah.
Give us some detail on that. What does that mean?
We're creating a world, right? So we take campers and we submerge them into this very gritty, dirty, bloody, rusty environment where they're competing to become what we call a Hellmaster. So the ultimate goal of Camp Out is to become a Hellmaster, which obviously comes with tons of privileges after, but they do things from looking through clues, clipping off fingers, diving into cadaver bodies to break ribs. All of these items, the ribs, the clipped fingers, the ears, the noses, the flesh, these are all items that we call scag, and it becomes the commerce of the event. So for 12 hours, they are diving, jumping, getting dirty and muddy, and by the time the sun comes up, we will have crowned our winner.
And do you create everything yourselves in-house? How do you produce the events?
We create everything in-house. It's me, and I have a small team of 10 that works around the clock all year long to create these events. Obviously, when we're in our event season, we have a much bigger staff. But we create everything from concept in-house to the building, to the special effects, to building the masks, hiring the casts. We do everything in-house.
Tell us a little bit about, when we talked earlier, you talked about sort of the pillars of immersive and the different elements. Can you give us a little bit more on that?
Sure. It's immersive is funny because people often think it's virtual reality only. It's strapping a device to your face or having simulations that can help people achieve this ultimate degree of suspended disbelief, and that's the ultimate goal of creating an immersive experience, is to create the highest degree of suspended disbelief, which is suspending judgment of the implausibility of a narrative or a fictional world. So you can do that, in gaming and in video much easier, because in the live world you can't use those aids. So there's spatial immersion, which is making somebody actually feel like they're there in the experience. There's narrative immersion, which is engaging somebody so much, obviously, into the narration of a story that they've excluded their world. There's tactical immersion, which is common in gaming because it's a repetitive, you're so engaged in punch, 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 run, 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 jump, that repetitive motion has you completely tuned out to your outside world. And strategic immersion, which is like chess. So these are ways that you can achieve immersion individually. There's also a ton of sensory involved in submerging your audience. And for me and my team, everything that we create, we try to put all of those components into our creations because, again, in the live space, it's much harder to achieve the belief, that sincere belief that goes along with people forgetting the world outside of them. So the live space is tricky, so we throw everything in the kitchen sink.
Great. Well, obviously it's working for you. You've partnered with Mark Cuban. Live Nation is a partner. Talk about how did that happen? We know about Cuban from Shark Tank, but talk about a little bit about Live Nation and sort of the expansion of your business.
Yes, when we partnered with Mark, obviously it was a giant platform for us. Just being on the show brought a lot of notoriety to the company. Mark is a huge resource, and he introduced us to Michael Rapino, who immediately was really engaged with the model because it's not being done anywhere. 1031 is really pioneering this space, and Michael Rapino has the largest ticketing platform in the world with Ticketmaster, more venues than any other company in the world, and obviously a humongous voice. And he saw the company, we were introduced through Mark, and really thought that Live Nation could bring a resource to us that could help us expand and grow. And that's exactly what we've been doing for the last 2 years is pedal to the metal on all these attractions.
Great. So let's take a step back now. So immersive entertainment, what's out there? What was sort of happening when you got into the space, and what sort of inspired you to get into this?
It's such an interesting space because there's there's IMAX theaters and there's video games and there's live, but to me, from a live attraction standpoint, I think Yumi Bum Bum Train and Punch Drunk, I think Burning Man has been an immersive experience for years that kind of just was ahead of its time. I mean, it's an in-depth, completely submerging art festival. I think all of these things have laid the groundwork. I think IMAX is doing a great job. But I think in this space and in a lot of spaces, there's a lot of startups and independent people who are just crazy enough to think that they can change an industry. And I think Oculus is a great example of that. They started out as a crowdfunding venture that then got humongous support from Facebook, which allowed them a launching pad that was maybe something they couldn't have done as quickly on their own. So I think a lot of the evolution of this space is coming from independent startups, people who are just a little bit too crazy to listen to reason, and they jump in the pool. And I proudly feel that way about 1031 Productions.
You're definitely a member of that group. So
The crazy group.
So you mentioned Oculus. Talk about virtual reality and immersive entertainment, and can those two work together? Where do you see it going?
Yeah, I mean, virtual entertainment and immersive definitely work together. I think they're very different. I think that you don't have to be virtual reality to be immersive. Which is kind of goes back to the prior point of being in the live space, creating, for an example, at the LA Haunted Hayride, we start the experience before they even get out of their cars. You drive up to the hayride, it's dark, it's cold, you're in a desolate parking lot, and a bus covered with blood shows up to pick you up. You get in that bus, and as you approach the hayride, all you see is this giant orange glow coming out of the trees. You smell hay and apple cider and the feel of fog. And that's before you even get on the ride, And then you get on the ride. So right there, all of the sensories are already working. You get on the ride, and we bring you through this narrative of ghosts of war. The ghosts of orphans that have burnt down in a burnt down orphanage that are handing you crayon drawings, a demon Santa that busts through an advent calendar and annihilates you with snow. It's the feeling of snow, the smell of the gunpowder, the spatial immersion of feeling like you're having hand-to-hand contact with an orphan. All of these things put the fear, the anxiety into the hayrider. So they're not thinking about what happened at work today or what they're going to go home to. They're thinking about what's around this next turn. What am I about to encounter? Anxiety. That's what we want to do.
So you've created that suspension of disbelief, which is so important for the experience.
Yes, that's the ultimate goal.
Got it. Talk a little bit about, everyone here is in the entertainment business in some capacity. Live Matters is what we're here to discuss. What sort of institutional takeaways or learnings have you had over the years that folks here in the room that are maybe not quite engaged in the level of immersion that you're providing for your consumer, but what are some of the things that you've learned along the way that anybody could apply, whether they're touring and playing in clubs or theaters, or what sort of things could they take away from what you've learned?
I think that they always need to be evolving. You know, I think that the people that are doing it right know that the world is becoming more sophisticated. The things that our parents were entertained by, or the things that you know, used to be like engaging in a cerebral way to us, aren't anymore. You know, we're being hit by advertorial messages and petitions to sign, and people that need help funding, you know, their projects, and home videos. I mean, we're being hit by so much content that there needs to be something better. You need to think a little harder and be a little more sophisticated about what your offering is. And you don't, even if you don't completely submerge somebody in experience, you need to evolve. And I think that's, you know, that can apply to everybody. You know, I feel like 4D movie theaters, right, like, are doing really well. It's this notion that you can go into a movie theater and watch The Nightmare Before Christmas, and it will start snowing in the theater. You know, that's cool. That's a movie theater evolving. I think live action cameras are another, you know, great evolution in movie making. It's challenging from an acting standpoint and from a filmmaker standpoint, I think, because they have to evolve and change the way that they've done it in the past. But all of these things are like, they're the same industries but different takes on them. You know what I mean?
Sort of evolve or die, right? I mean, I think there's
kind of. Isn't it that quote, anything that fails to evolve ceases to exist?
Right.
Yeah.
And if you look in the live entertainment space, there's certainly some very one-dimensional offerings out there that are going away, all in favor of what you're talking about, which is more sophisticated production, more sophisticated narrative, things that really immerse the consumer.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit, can you talk a little bit about that, about how you've seen the space evolve in general?
Yeah, I always like follow the money, right? Like, if you look at any of the revenue trends over the past decade, they either go up or they go down. Rarely do they just stay flat from in an industry perspective. So, I mean, the types of revenue, I mean, zoos, circuses, aquariums, revenues have been declining exponentially for a decade because it's not, people aren't engaged in that kind of entertainment anymore. It's kind of sad, actually, right? Like, people don't want to go see captured animals necessarily. So, I mean, there's like ethical things that people think about now, you know? So, I mean, I feel like those industries are kind of
like the zoo, SeaWorld, et cetera, right?
Totally antiquated. I mean, I think days are numbered.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of live theater they need to, you know, definitely get on the game, because there's this four-wall theater concept is kind of also moving out, you know, as things like Sleep No More and Yumi Bum Bum Train, you know, create this moving space theater, you know, model. So I think ultimately you know, it's not a surprise, because you can watch the revenue curves of some of these you know, models, and I just tell you, they're either coming or going.
Right. So we've talked. You know that I love Burning Man. We talked about Sleep No More, and you know, with Burning Man, there's this incredible environment, which is the desert and Black Rock outside Reno. With Sleep No More, it's at the McKittrick Hotel in New York City. How important is that environment to what you're doing, to find something that already exists, something cool, some ecosystem or an environment, et cetera, for you to come in and then build out from there?
It is the most critical. It is, for me, I mean, it's my starting point. me and my team, the first thing we do is figure out what the environment is, and it's usually something nostalgic that was haunting from your childhood, like camping and stories or being in the woods. Like we do a lot of things in the woods because that demeanor, it lends itself to horror. So I think that the environment is critical. I mean, and like you love Burning Man. Like how critical is that environment for you?
It's everything.
Right?
Yeah.
It really is.
If you start with a great environment, you're already so ahead of the game. Same thing with you see all the music festivals and the proliferation of the festival space.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that are winning are the special ones that already have a unique environment, like a Coachella or Lollapalooza, et cetera. So I suppose the same for you.
It is, yeah, for sure. It's definitely this. It's funny because my business partner Keith Greco is a huge Burning Man. I call him the mayor of Burning Man. Actually, I think he builds the entire thing. But he's one of the creators of Cirque du Soleil, and his mind is just brilliant. So environmentally, I always call him the Terminator. You know how the Terminator would see in graphs and lines and matrix and numbers, he sees it in colors. So I bring him into an environment, and he, then he touches it with his, mastermind and his genius. But the key is always for those environments to have that je ne sais quoi, whatever it is, before we even go in and touch it.
And how do you find these people to help you create this world and this environment? Where do they come from? How do you find them? I mean, I assume that's one of the most important elements is your team that can create this experience.
It's the hardest thing that there is for me. I mean, on a daily basis, that is probably the number one biggest challenge to our growth. It is finding people who, number one, have the talent, that is good enough for me and at 1031 Productions, because obviously, like, no one is good enough. But when I find that person, having it be somebody who's also passionate, about this genre and about what we're doing. So, finding that person is tough. We've had the same team for 7 years, and rarely, do we have somebody coming in or out. So we're always looking for those like soulmate. We call them our soulmate candidates.
Great. And
Yeah.
talk about some of the content that you create around your experiences and how they lend themselves to that.
We try to always take a fresh approach with all of the attractions. All of the attractions take place around the country, around the United States, every single year. They're never the same from year to year. And now what we've recently been doing, which I'm super stoked about, is we're, with the Great Horror Campout, we're starting the experience weeks before the campers even get there. So we, our camp headmaster, which is our Mickey Mouse, kind of, for the Great Horror Campout, he's our host and MC, and he's the icon, the mascot of the event, is actually making phone calls to campers who've already bought tickets, who are waiting to come to camp in 3 weeks. I think we're 3 weeks out. And he's starting the game now. Cool. He's calling them and he's telling them, this is what I need you to do. This is your first clue. Go solve it, and you may have your very first piece of SCAG awarded to you before you even step foot on campout. So we're starting the game now. And for a camper who bought their ticket, and ticket holders are used to buying their ticket and going on the day of event, and that's what they expect. So when your phone rings and it's the Great Horror Campout headmaster having a game for you to play, checkmate. Right. No one's doing that,
And how does that scale, though? How do you get, does that engagement in front of your event, is that all social media based, or how does that work?
It's both. I mean, it's engagement because it's, it already puts our campers, it gives them a level of excitement that is, it's already there before they even get there. So when they get there, they're more excited, they're having more fun, they're already engaged, they already have skin in the game. From a social standpoint, part of the challenge is that they have to post it on their Facebooks or on any of their social channels. They have to say exactly what the headmaster is telling them to say, and they have to, it's like a headmaster says type kind of challenge, right. And they have to do it exactly to code. And if they mess up once, or even a little bit, they could, the repercussions could be very critical.
And they become marketing for your events, obviously.
Tons of marketing, yep,
yeah.
Yep.
Right, so talk about generationally, are you seeing, is it, 18 and under that embrace this, and folks my age that maybe don't, or what are you seeing sort of as that demographic breaks out in the immersive space?
it really depends on our attraction, but we, as a company, do not really super serve kids. We're an 18 to 34 generally demographic. The hayrides are a little younger, maybe around like the 12, 13, 14, 15 to like 45. So, you know, we definitely, it's funny because people always think that, you know, Halloween and horror attractions are for kids. Not at all. I mean, there are so many adults who can't even handle the content of some of our attractions. So, you know, we definitely are a company that's super serving adults.
Got it.
Yeah,
Do you,
hands
by
down.
the way, do people ever get hurt? Are there ambulances on site? What is, like,
Never.
how does that?
Never. They don't-
Okay.
Yeah, no, we actually in 7 years, knock on wood, knock on everything, have a spotless record. I mean, we're crazy about safety. So, no, we're very lucky. We have, at the Great Horror Campout, everybody has to sign a death waiver before they're allowed on the premises, though, so, because they can get touched and
Got it.
bagged, bound.
Talk about that though, the level of interaction. I mean, they are getting.
Yeah, the Great Horror Campout is our most, it's our most intense horror experience. So it's the high octane experience, and we have a buried alive challenge where you will actually be buried alive, tight claustrophobic spaces. You'll have to, we've had swimming holes where you have to go into a swimming hole, basically strip down. You can get, you know, there's things in the swimming hole that will pull you out of your inner tube. You get leeches stuck on you. The leech, though, you're inclined to take it off and like throw it. It's skags. You gotta keep it. They feel very real, but they're not. There's, you know, bloody tug of wars. People get caged and put in and locked in trunks, and you have to barter your way out or figure out how to solve something to get out of captivity. You can have a burlap sack shoved over your head when you're least expecting it and hiked away out of camp, and you can get disqualified for lots of different things. So we give them 24 hours of notice with a dossier that's sent to them to study, learn the rules of camp so that they're more prepared to actually survive the whole 12 hours. But if you're there to play, you're involved in a pretty high octane game, and not everybody survives the 12 hours.
So the buzzwords, of course, especially online, it's all about engagement, right?
Yeah.
It's less about total followers and really more about a combination of followers and engagement.
Mm-hmm.
And sounds like with what you're doing, you get the ultimate in terms of engagement. Can you talk about that?
We do. I mean, we get a ton of engagement because, you know, the passion level for this genre is high. You know, it's I mean, it's like the Comic-Con kids and the people who love gaming. Like horror, it has already this this organic engagement instilled in it because people just love it. People love to be scared because they're, you know, the adrenaline rush of being scared. Actually, it's an actual real physical reaction. It releases dopamine in your body. So it's something that people crave and want to do. So the level of engagement is incredibly high, and that's part of the experience. If you don't engage, you won't even experience what there is to do. So
What's the opportunity for brands with this kind of with Haunted Hayride and beyond? Is there integration possibilities, or how does that work in your world?
I think there's tons of integration possibilities with Haunted Hayride, with 1031 Productions. I mean, I think going back to what we were talking about, you know, with immersive and where has it been, where is it going? You know, I think the world is built up of collaborations, right? Like it's all about big giant collaborations, and what we can learn from those collaborations will kind of dictate where we go in this space and every space. But you know, industries and pioneers have always been created through revolutionary collaborations like electricity. Like we were given electricity, an electrical grid from a collaboration from Thomas Edison and the Vanderbilts and J.P. Morgan. Bill Gates and Paul Allen gave us Microsoft, which changed the game for us. The space station is a collaboration of nations, right? So, I mean, these are all things that changed humanity. So I think in anything, if we can learn from those things, you know, collaborations will either turn immersive entertainment into you know, us sitting in chairs with plugs in the back of our heads like the Matrix, or it will open up an incredible platform for the creative process that will just be mind-blowing in the future.
Just the purple pill, right?
You take the purple pill or the red pill? That's